it's quite clear that banking has gone through an existential crisis. As a whole, the financial sector is expanding, but the regulated sector, the big banks, the high street banks that everybody would think of, that's shrinking. So you've got this fragmentation going on amongst the providers of financial services. That has major implications, of course, for big law firms. So new lenders are coming into the market, the so-called shadow banking sector. That is people like hedge funds, insurance companies, private equity, even new forms of lending like peer-to-peer lending on the web. Instead of having, let's say 24 very large banks as your core clients, it may well be that one would have hundreds of smaller financial service providers around the world. So that has implications for how we manage our client relationships, how we organize ourselves to service those clients. From our corporate clients, the one lesson they've learned from all this is that they definitely need to diversify their sources of funding. Again, that creates more demand for legal services from those types of clients because they need to enter new markets. Well, one of the big opportunities for law firms that stems from this kind of massive change that's gone on in the financial sector is a hugely increased demand for high-level regulatory advice. Everybody understands that actually banks should be regulated on a global basis, so there's a consistent level playing field wherever they operate. But for all sorts of reasons, that's not going to happen, at least not in my lifetime. And so for big global banks, that's a big challenge because they're having to comply with different rules and regulations in different parts of the world. And that's something that a firm like ours, because of our global reach and because of our the way we operate in these markets, we have a particular expertise that puts us at the top of the tree. And one of the things that is a major trend that we identified is the growth of Sharia-compliant finance. Because the increasingly Muslim populations are becoming more wealthy, more middle class, therefore creating more demand for financial products. I think what our most sophisticated clients are now saying is that for any given matter or transaction, there are some parts of it which are very high-end, highly strategic, boardroom level advice, and they'll pay whatever it takes to get the best advice. And then there may be other aspects of that matter. So for example, in an M&A deal, maybe the due diligence, reviewing contracts, which they don't regard as carrying quite the same value, and they believe can be done much more cheaply and more efficiently. So there's a lot of pressure now on bigger law firms to adapt to these changes, which are more than just cyclical. It's not just because economic times are hard, it's a real structural change.